everyone, and welcome to my channel. So today I'm talking about a new movie on Netflix called Leave the World Behind with an all-star cast. And to be honest, Netflix hasn't released a lot of great movies this year. There's been a lot of silly comedies and animation. So let's talk about Leave the World Behind. Synopsis goes, a family vacation on Long Island is interrupted by two strangers bearing news of a blackout. As the threat grows, both families must decide how best to survive the potential crisis, all while grappling with their own place in this collapsing world. So to say the least, this is a apocalyptic end of the world type of movie. And like I said, it's an all-star cast, which is probably the best part of the movie because they all delivered. Like, no one outshone the other. Julia Roberts is the biggest name of the movie, which is a big part why I was drawn to it, because I'm a huge Julia Roberts fan. And she got paired up with Ethan Hawke, which, he's a star within his own rights. But I thought Julia Roberts, maybe she should have got paired up with like a Denzel Washington or George Clooney, a Brad Pitt, to match up her, her star power. But I thought Ethan Hawke was perfectly cast as the laid-back, chill husband who doesn't wear the pants in the relationship. And Julia Roberts, for, being American sweetheart and famous for that laugh and that big smile, dang, you want to punch her in the face sometimes in this movie. So kudos to her for playing the part. Mahershala Ali, who I love, whatever this man does, I think he's great. And here, no surprise, he commands the screen. And I did not trust his character up until, I want to say, third act of the movie, when he meets Kevin Bacon's character and they're in the porch and the lawn. I was like, oh, okay, so you were a good person then, because up to that point, his character, George, I didn't trust him. I was like, George, you up to no good. I wasn't expecting to get a lot of chills in this movie, but I did. Like, it's starting with the beach scene when they're at Sag Harbor, I think. It's Julia Roberts and she plays Amanda, and Ethan Hawke plays Clay, and they have two teenage kids, a boy and a girl. And then they're on the beach, relaxing, reading a book on their phones, and this oil ship, a huge boat, it's getting closer and closer to the beach. And then at one point, I think it was the little girl's like, it's getting closer. And they're like, what? No one's looking. And at one point, the ship is like coming and coming and coming. And I was just like, I was freaking out. It's like, run, people, run. Because at one point, a ship that big, it will cause like a tsunami. Like, the waves will hit you before the ship gets to the sand, right? So I was just like, get up and run. So Amanda's and Clay's and their kids, they go back to the house that they were renting. They rented this fancy vacation home. And then they got a knock on the door, and it's George and Ruth. Ruth, it's his daughter. And they're saying that there was a big blackout in the city, so they decided to drive to their house and spend the night there. And Julia Roberts, she's very skeptical, as she should be, because, two strangers show up at your house in the middle of the night, not your house, but the house that you're renting. And they said, because she questions, like, why didn't you go back to your place in the city? And then Ruth says, we live in the 14th floor. My dad has a bad knee. He can't go up the stairs. That was the point that I would be like, what are you, like, don't BS me. You have a bad knee and you decide to live on the 14th floor. Do you know that elevators can shut down, break down? That's very common. And you want to live all the way up with a bad knee? I'll be like, And George tells Amanda, saying that, oh, I'm George. We have been emailing back and forth about renting the house. And she looks at him up and down and she says, it's your house? And that's when her casual racism starts, and you want to punch her in the face. But also, I don't care if you say we've been emailing back and forth. You're not coming in. Show me your ID. Show me the emails that you have, and we might talk. I don't think Julia Roberts was being unreasonable for being skeptical. I also think in real life, if I was renting a vacation home and I did not let some stranger that knocked on my door in the middle of the night in, the owner of the house would actually appreciate that. Yeah, it was an awkward interaction, but I understood. I know a lot of people are saying that Julia Roberts' character was very racist, but Ruth, the black chick who plays Ali's daughter, she was very racist too. She's having a conversation with her dad, and then she says, when the world falls apart, trust should not be given to anyone, especially white people. I also thought that she guilt-tripped the white family into thinking that the reason why they didn't trust Ruth and George was because they were black. Look, I don't care what color of skin you have. I don't care if you're orange, black, white. I don't care if you're German, Brazilian, Spanish. I don't care. You are a stranger coming in the middle of the night trying to stay at this house with my kids. And you can argue that George had a key to this drawer in the liquor cabinet that had a gun and an envelope full of cash. You're like, okay, you know, he had a key. Of course, he's the owner. No, he could have kidnapped, murdered the owners of the house, stole the key, knew where the cash was, or made them tell him where the cash was. Things get so awkward when Julia Roberts says, because Ethan Hawke, he said, of course he's the owner. He had a key for the cabinet. And she's like, he could be a maintenance guy. She could be the housekeeper. And this is where she says, you know, housekeepers, they know where the cash is stashed. I was like, oh my God. But I think the point of the movie is that all these people are assholes in their own way. That's what makes them dysfunctional. Like Clay, Ethan's character, when he's in the middle of the road, he got lost and he didn't stop to help this Spanish speaking lady, and she was desperate. That lady, that actress, she freaked the bejesus out of me. I was like, just her facial expressions, and she was screaming and crying, Señor, Señor, por favor, por favor. I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is so creepy. I did not blame him for not letting her in, because you can tell things are going down. Something is off, something is going on. You don't know if this lady, what she's up to. She could have a gun. She could like get in the car, you let her in, and she points a gun in your head, and then she leaves you on the side of the road, and you're the one in the side of the road asking for help. And I know the movie was trying to play with the loss of empathy and the fear of helping someone. And I thought it was so interesting because that made me look inside myself and what would I do in that situation. Oh, and by the way, when this blackout happened, there's no phones, no service, no Wi-Fi, no TV. But they did have power at the house, at the vacation home that Julia Roberts is staying. And because I thought when the kid, her son, he's going through his phone, looking at pictures that he took of Ruth in the pool. And I'm like, kid, stop playing with your phone. You need to save the battery. You know, in moments like that, I'll be like, we don't know when power is going to go out. One great tip that I learned in this movie about surviving was to fill up the tub. I never thought about it. You know, when the world's coming to an end, the first thing that people should do is fill up their tubs, because you don't know when water is going to be shut off or you won't have water. I was like, that's such a great tip. But speaking of Archie, and he's the oldest son, he has probably the creepiest scene of the movie. Forget about the hundreds of deers, the flamingos, because they all hear at some point this like buzzing noise and they all cover their ears. And apparently Archie said, oh, I didn't cover my ears soon enough. And what they imply in the movie is that it was radiation. So he wakes up and he spits blood. And then all of a sudden he starts like touching his teeth. And then he's pulling like tooth by tooth. I was like, oh, that's like some people's worst nightmare, to have their teeth falling off. And I thought at one point, I was like, wait, is this a dream? Please don't tell me they're all dreaming they're gonna wake up anytime soon. But no. Also, I don't think the director would spend, you know, so much, not a lot of time, but there was a shot that Archie got bit by a bug on his ankle right here, and there's a close-up where he's like pulling something out of his leg. He's like, oh, gross. So it could have been a virus that got him sick. Speaking of chilling, creepy moments, the score was so good because in those moments, the music only helped you to be like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Especially on a lot of like crucial moments. There was a scene that Amanda helps Ruth when all the deers line up and surround Ruth, and Julia Roberts starts like, hey, screaming. And at the same time, Kevin Bacon and Ali, they're having, they're pointing guns to each other, and then Ethan Hawke is in the middle screaming, like trying to reason with them. And then the music during those scenes just made everything be more like chilling. After George and Clay get the antibiotics for Archie, they're having this conversation in the car, and George has a theory that a civil war is about to happen. There's actually a moment that a TV, because their TVs were going from static to working like on and off, and we see a moment in the news that say that big cities in the White House were being targeted by armed forces going rogue. And when they said big cities, I thought about coast, like the US coast. And I live in San Diego, and there's a big military base here. So I was like, oh no. George talks about the three things that are happening. First is isolation, and then the second is synchronized chaos, and then the third is coup de something. So first, you isolate people, then you took away their basic life needs, and then 3, you watch them as they kill each other off. But I think the movie does a good job showing that the only way to survive is when people come together, like Amanda helping Ruth, and then George helping Clay get the medicine for his son. The story was so relevant, I thought, especially in the political climate that we live in, which made it even more scarier. I bet a lot of people will be buying road maps after watching this movie, or practicing survivalism, like, navigating without technology, growing their own food, relying on home medicine. So you might be thinking, who did it? Who's causing this whole thing? And when Ethan Hawke and Mahershala Ali were talking to Kevin Bacon, they showed the pamphlet, because when Ethan, he was lost on the road when that Spanish-speaking lady was trying to get in the car, a drone was releasing thousands of red pamphlets with a message in Arab that said, they translated, and it said, "Death to America." So they show that to Kevin Bacon, and he starts laughing because he said that he has a friend in San Diego, shout out San Diego, that said they receive the same pamphlets, but in Korean, which made me think, was this a coordinated attack on the US by every other country that doesn't like the United States? Like they all teamed up, and that's why the pamphlets are in different languages. Anyway, let's talk about Rose, the youngest daughter, because all the other characters, they're all awful in their own way, and I felt like Rose, she was the innocent one, and she ended up being kind of the hero at the end of the movie. I remember when she was trying to warn her brother Archie about all the deer that she saw in the backyard, and she's like, no one listens to me, and he's like, nope, probably not. And then when she's trying to tell him that she's really upset that she can not watch the last episode of Friends, she's obsessed with Friends, and she got to the last episode, which is called The Last One, when the whole blackout, no Wi-Fi, she couldn't watch on any streaming services, and she's really upset. And her brother was saying, like, why do you care so much? Why are you so obsessed with Friends? And she's like, I want to know what happens to Ross and Rachel. I care about them. And then he said, well, you shouldn't. So I think that lit up a little fire inside of Rose when she told her mom, she said, I'm tired of waiting. I was like, waiting for what? So I think she took matters into her own hands, and then she took her bike, ran away, and found this, huge house, like a beautiful, expensive house that had this badass bunker. She goes down there, and I think that was kind of her mistake, because as she's going into the bunker, Julia Roberts, her mom, yells, Rosie, and she doesn't even turn. I would at least say, Mom, come here, look what I found. No, she goes like straight to the bunker, and then she finds a whole wall of DVDs. And of course, there's the whole collection of all the seasons from Friends, and she finds the last episode. And I thought it was kind of ironic because I was like, will Rose be the last one? And if you're wondering, where was the family that owns this big house with the bunker? Where were they? My theory is that they were back in the city dreaming about their $1 million bunker, but they are stuck in the city. They can't get out, or they're already dead. It was said in the beginning when Julia Roberts is talking to Ethan Hawke, she's saying, oh, I got a really good deal because it's off season. It's about 2 hours and 20 minutes. And it did not feel that long for me because it felt like a play. The movie's divided in 5 parts. What if this really happened? What will I do if this happened? Am I prepared? I know a lot of people would think that the ending was unresolved, like who did it, who's causing this whole thing. But I love the ending. I think they left it to the viewer's interpretation. I got closure. Did you get closure? Let me know in the comments down below. What did you think of Leave the World Behind? Have you read the novel that the movie is based on? Do you think we'll get a sequel by the way the movie ended? If you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the little bell, the notification button so you don't miss any future videos. And I'll see you next time.